This video is about Lishi tools. That's always good for clicks, right? Hey everyone. So we're talking about Lishi lockpicks. And unless you have been living under a rock in the lock, sport, and security world in the past, well, year or so now, you got to know what these are, right? For those of you who don't, maybe you're saying, why is this word I keep seeing pop up on people's... What is Lishi? Who's that man on these weird items that cost a lot of money? Okay. This video is going to break down a number of distinctions between different brands, different products, and different myths and questions people have been asking me about these tools. So for those who don't know, Lishi Tools is a Chinese locksmith tool company. They've been around a long time. They were founded by a Mr. Li. So Zichin Li, he is the gentleman whom you see on the blade of these picks, right? His company has been making a lot of different things, and they're well known in the lockpicking and lock sport and locksmithing world for some time, even before this product came out. But the two-in-one style of decoder pick produced by Mr. Li in his factory, he's in the Hebei province. If you're not familiar, it's kind of near the neck of the chicken. It's an odd-shaped province that kind of surrounds Beijing and Tianjin. So he's been producing this style of pick tool since early 2000. If you're not familiar with why they're so popular and revolutionary, in a nutshell, if you want to decode a lock, you just don't have the bidding for it at all. You want to make a key. If you have access to the lock, a lot of times you have options, right? We teach this in Red Team Alliance classes. You take the lock out of the door. You take the pins out of it. You measure the pins. If you got a padlock, you can, hopefully have an ejectable core padlock. You can dump those pins out, right? You measure the pins, you put it back together, hooray, you can make a key. That works fine in those kind of situations. But in automotive environments, which is where Mr. Li really first developed these tools, it's a huge pain to take a frickin' car door apart. You know, you're a locksmith, you're in the field, you're on a service call, this poor customer just wants a key, and you're like, oh God, I don't want to take this whole car apart. So the idea of decoder picks, those have been immensely popular in the field, especially with automotive locksmiths. And there have been others before this. There were sort of optical style, and there were little blades that you can, a lot of wafer locks in automobiles, so you can impression them. But Mr. Li's tools, with a bidding chart, a graph built into the tool, they really captivated people. And everyone loved him, so much so that his company experienced great success with them. And actually, he grew and moved his company in 2017, kept making them and developing them. And it was in 2019 that we start seeing these developed for the Western market, and not just for automotive use, but for doors and padlocks. That's where we see the Schlage and the Kwikset one and the Master and the American. All that comes out in 2019. So you say to yourself, all right, I've heard of these, I know people use them, but how come there's different names that are all very similar? Like there's original Lishi and genuine Lishi. Is that like a Famous Ray's, original Ray's kind of pizza feud? How come some have stickers on them that might be a red label or a green label, or some have no labels at all? Are they fakes? Are they knockoffs of one another? I know it's China, you got weird supply lines. All right, here's the breakdown there. If you have a red label tool, typically marketed under the name Original Lishi. Is it real? Yes. This is made in Mr. Li's factory. It is made by a reputable source. The thing is, Original Lishi is a separate company for distribution of these tools. So that is a man from Taiwan who's got his business in Taiwan and Australia, James Chen. Another person distributing to locksmiths. Original Lishi is James Chen's arrangement with Mr. Li to sell, not produce, but to sell Lishi products on the foreign market. And this was some of the first Lishi inventory that we saw in the West, as I can recall. They are still some of the most expensive. Remember when these first came out, and like American Key Supply had them, and then eventually Brockage had them, but they were all like over $100. That's Original Lishi, when a lot of us first started buying them. What's the green label then? Is that a fake, a real, it's something else? No, green label's not fake, right? These are just different distributors of Lishi product. These people aren't making their tools. Green label, who's that? That's called Genuine Lishi. They are also not a company that does business in China. They were a relationship with Mr. Li for distribution outside of China. So that's UPA Tradelocks is the company. They're a UK company. Now, if you've ever heard of someone saying, oh, I don't know about those Genuine Lishi, I think they have poor quality, here's why I think that rumor came around. These were initially a batch of tools that were made, again, from Mr. Li in the Lishi factory, but at some point, I have been told from my people in China that Genuine Lishi started making their own in a different factory, still in China, but maybe not Mr. Li's factory. Genuine Lishi is, to my understanding, a company that had not a bad blood with Mr. Li, but kind of a falling out. Like, that relationship fell apart. So you're not always going to see genuine Lishi tools coming from the Lishi factory. Does that mean that they are fakes or illegal tools? No, they had a license to use the name and to use his likeness and everything else. But again, this was just a different supply line. And if you've ever found Lishi tools that just seem really different, it's probably a green label. It's probably a genuine Lishi not being made at Mr. Li's factory. So now we get to the real head scratcher. What is this? Well, I've got a Lishi pick here with no sticker at all, but it's got Mr. Li's face on it. Is this a knockoff? Is this somebody playing around? No. If you find a Lishi pick and it feels and looks pretty genuine, it's like, this is like everything I've ever handled. This is a Lishi pick made by and sold by the Lishi company inside of China. When they wind up on the Western market here in the US and elsewhere, these are other companies in China, lock and trade companies that are acquiring Lishi picks from the source and exporting them through new avenues. It's no longer just original Lishi and genuine Lishi selling to the West. It's become such a huge market that now everyone's trying to get in on it. And with that comes a lot of price wars. So original Lishi is still very expensive. Genuine Lishi, they are the cheaper option if you know which ones you're getting. But the just proper, I mean, you just call them Lishi, right? They're just Chinese Lishi. These can be all over the map on price, but they're not all over the map on quality. In my experience, they're just as good as anything else I've handled. They just don't have that cool, shiny hologram sticker with a color on it. Maybe we'll start calling them, I don't know, Lishi Blue. Who knows? So if you're seeing a colored sticker, what that means simply is that you're dealing with a known exporter in the business network arrangement in China. If you're not seeing a sticker, it doesn't mean it's a knockoff. It just means it's somebody new in the game. As long as you see Mr. Li's face, you have a pretty good chance of knowing you're dealing with a proper item. Now you might be saying, well, wait a minute, Dave. Looking at him from this angle, what's with this round collar versus these flatter, squared off collars? Is that a sign of somebody cutting corners and making a fake? No. In fact, seeing round and square collars like this, that's not even a way you can tell at a glance, with sticker or no, if it's an original Lishi or genuine Lishi or what's going on there. The collar shape and size, that was simply a change that Mr. Li himself and the factory made in, I want to say it was in 2020, when they actually were just, it was like December of 2020, when they said, look, this machining process, because the collar has a hole drilled into it for the set screw. Drilling into a curved surface, we've talked about this in our classes. It's not an easy task. That's why locks have imperfections. We can pick them. But that's just a pain. It's harder to do, and it's just more material. It doesn't pack as flat in your pocket or in a kit. So Mr. Li himself and his staff, they decided to mill these flat. All you're seeing if you come across a pick that has those flat sides is a newer production pick. If you have one with a round collar, congratulations. You've got, a little piece of history that doesn't exist anymore. And you probably paid more for it because it's probably original Lishi red label. Now, to tackle some of the questions you folk have been asking me, either on Twitter or in comments or via email or just on the street coming up to me going, Dave, tell me about these Lishi picks. Okay, no one says that to me, but some of you are thinking it because, frankly, after all of Lockpicking Lawyers videos and other people's videos, Byte's videos, Tony did an explainer, the market's gone bazoo. So, everyone sells them now. Covert Instruments sells a ton of them. We sell them on Red Team Tools. The major players still have some of them, usually at the old high pricing. So shop around. But let's get to some of your questions. For example, Raphael asks me,
This is Raphael. Is it possible to use a Lishi decoder pick if the lock is mounted what we would call upside down, like how locks are seen in much of Europe?
well, I gotta tell you, Raphael, that's a fascinating question. You know what the answer is? I don't know. But let's find out. So what you're referring to, and what people would think about, is what if you have a lock sort of mounted in what we might call the European style, where the pins are beneath the plug? Will a Lishi pick work? Well, I don't see why it wouldn't. You've got spring pressure and feedback. I'm assuming, though, that it's just going to be hard on me as a human because all of my muscle memory using these tools, or frankly any pick tools, is in the other direction. But I'll give it a shot. All right. Lishi pick going in this lock upside down like. How is this going to feel, and will it work? Well, we've definitely got some springs. I can feel the springs. 3 feels like it might be binding. 2 feels springy. 1 feels springy. All right, let's try that 3rd pin. What do we got here? All right, we might have a kind of a click. I feel a set bounce. Really loose in the 4th position. Let's go deep. 5 is really loose. Oh, 2 is binding. All right, we've got a set on 2. How about 1? Maybe that feels a little stiff. Oh, we might. Ooh, that. Now I don't have any set bounce. Maybe I overset 1. Let's see what's going on 4. This feels. It's weird that it doesn't, it just drops if you're not holding it. So definitely that's a little harder. No, we're loose on 5. 4 is okay. 3, maybe is set. God, now nothing feels right. Maybe that's set. It's hard to tell the set bounce, I'll tell you that. And yeah, I don't like 1 at all. Let's reset that. So 1 is loose. 2, maybe a little bind. All right, that feels maybe set. 3 is very binding. Okay, 3 is definitely, I got a nice little set bounce out of 3. Nothing on 4. 5 is nothing on 5. 2, ooh, 2 feels binding now. Again, what happened here? Oh, there's a good, all right, we got a click out of 2. 1, this is the one that I jammed up before, right? 1 felt really jammy. I'm not feeling any. Oh, okay. That was a better click. We still like 2. 3 is no longer giving me a, well, it might be giving me a little bounce. It's so hard to tell the set bounce. 4 is something's binding here now. Really? Nothing? What? Oh, okay. Whoa, had to push really high on 4. And 5. Is 5 the only one? All right, got it on 5. So, whew. So it works, but it feels really strange. Okay, so as I sort of predicted, and we could kind of imagine this in most instances, the tool performs perfectly fine, even upside down. What doesn't perform perfectly fine is the tool user. And that's really common, right? This is why in class, especially when we're talking to people who have to do dangerous field work and we train them, we say, look, you got to practice this not just on a tabletop in comfortable conditions. Practice this at weird angles. Put a lock way down near the ground or up really high so you have to kind of reach. Make your hands dirty or oily. Do a bunch of burpees. Raise your heart rate. If all you're doing is practicing lockpicking under nice controlled circumstances, that's great if you're just doing lock sport and you're just opening video, or being posted for your friends. But if you're a field practitioner, if you have to do this under stress or under altered mental consciousness, be practicing that way, because that's how it's going to approach you in the field. And you're going to go, oh crap, I'm not used to putting my tools in this way. What works the way it would for regular conventional picks seems to work the same way for Lishis. They're still great to use, but they're hard if you haven't practiced in that configuration. Excellent question. So another cool question I got from Brooke, in fact. Brooke asks,
in addition to offering great tactile and especially visual feedback, do Lishi tools also provide enhanced audio feedback when you're picking a lock?
Well, I gotta tell you, Brooke, that's a fantastic question. You know what the answer is? I don't know. Want to find out? I am among being other things, a safe technician, right? So I have a lot of safe cracking tools. Among them included is the little Easy Amp. This is a sound amplifier that you actually clamp onto the front face of a safe when you're doing manipulation. Well, it's magnetic, and Lishi tools are steel, so maybe we clamp this on here and try picking a couple locks and see what it sounds like. I expect it's gonna blow the hell out of my eardrums, so turn your speakers down. Whew. All right, so as predicted, that's loud. Hope you turn your speakers down like I told you to. But it was kind of neat listening to it, right? Much of the sound was just sort of the two pieces of the tool scraping around each other. That's why I ended up clamping it to the vise instead. But you could actually not just hear the clicking and the setting, you could even hear that sort of ting ting of like the springs just kind of resetting and clicking in there. So yeah, man, the Taylor amp is pretty baller. I'm glad I have it sometimes when I'm trying to find contact points in a really sensitive wheel pack. Does the Lishi tool help with audio feedback? I mean, I guess. Not much different, in my opinion, than regular picking has audio feedback. Those clicks are really pronounced when you get them. It's the visual feedback that makes it in the Lishi tools really valuable. All right, cool question. Thank you, Brooke. So next question. Brian S. asked me an interesting point about forensics when using Lishi picks.
Since Lishi decoder picks allow someone to be much more precise and careful about their movements within a lock, is using a Lishi decoder pick a way to avoid some of the common forensic tool marks left by conventional lock picking?
That's a fascinating question, Brian. You know what the answer is? I don't know, but let's find out. What I have here is a little Adams Rite, dead latch unit here, and it is brand new. I've just installed 2 new cylinders of reasonable quality. We won't call them great, but they've never known touch of key or picks especially. So what we'll do is we'll get this mounted up and I will pick open one side, leave the other side untouched, then we'll take them apart and do a forensic examination of the pins. Let's give that a try. Okay, so virgin cylinders on each side. Until a moment ago, nothing had gone in them except, well, maybe some test keys at the factory when they were pinning these up. But now we have our Lishi tool in, and we're going to say the picking side is the side up against this bushing here. So that's how we'll keep this all straight. Let's give it a little bit of pressure and see what we can find. So first position, totally loose. Second position might have a little bit of binding in there. Not feeling a really good set. Feels like maybe a 4 or a 5 depth could be the real depth. Third position, totally loose. Fourth position. Well, again, we're hitting something here, but it does definitely not setting. Fifth position, oh, now we got some binding. I can feel that. Look at that. Fifth position. Really high pin. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we've got a set in fifth position. I'm going to bet that it's going to bind from the rear. So yeah, look at that. We're getting some possible binding here. Ooh, maybe, maybe not. Well, that could be a set or it could be a little bit of a false. 3, definitely binding. What do we have here? All right, I got a nice click out of 3. 2, I thought we felt something. Well, 2 is hard to tell. This is a really big swing range if that is a set bounce. And 1, nothing out of 1. So let's start again in the deep. What do we have? 5th position, we like that. 4th position. That feels a little better on the 4th position. 3rd position, not a set. Oh, there we go. Got a nice set out of 3 maybe. 2, it's like we're resetting all these positions. Got a set out of 2. Nothing out of 1. So strange. What's going on here? 5th position, good. 4th position, almost like 4th unset. 4th is set again. 3rd position, good. 2nd position might be set. Now we're getting something out of 1. And there we go. Okay, that's picked. So not a super bad job there. That was able to work. And just if well, I was going to decode it, but let's not put any pressure on those pins. Let's bottom out the pick. Let's get it completely out of the lock. And with it turned so that I can eject that, let's take this apart, and using the key, let's take this apart and have a look at them under the microscope. All right, so let's have a look here at this first pin. Where are you? Oof, man. That looks rough. So we can see a few of what I would sometimes call key swipes. These large sort of passes across the pin. But this is just, it looks gouged. Is that from a key? Just like chunk, 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 chunk. This is the front pin in the lock, but man, that looks bad. Let's check the second pin. Okay, so there, look at that. That's a classic key swipe. Fresh pin takes a key for one of the first times, maybe. But again, we have, what is this? Is that on the withdraw? That might be the withdraw stroke of crack, 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 crack. That's interesting. Nothing that really looks like pick marks yet. Third pin. Okay, so we've got a couple of good swipes across. All right, we've got a good key swipe in. And maybe, wow, this pin actually looks like it was reused a couple times. What is this? What is going on over here? I don't know. This pin's a wreck. And that could be the withdraw stroke. Maybe? Fourth pin. Yeesh. Well, okay. This is a moon crater over here. We've got a jagged something. Wow. So even from the, quote, factory, look at it. Crack, 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 crack. So this looks like an inbound stroke. And maybe that is a withdraw. Crack, 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 crack. But what is this? And what is this? Again, we have a pin that looks like it's been hit by multiple passes. This is our deepest pin in the lock. Okay. So we've got, looks like an inbound. And not a lot of crack, 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 because again, we're not withdrawing the bitting off this key. Interesting, interesting. So already the forensics are just kind of fascinating about that. And I don't know what this big blemish is, but fascinating. All right, let's check out the one that has been picked. So let's have a look at pins that were allegedly picked. Now we've seen quite the train wreck before on the factory fresh pins. This doesn't Look, interesting. So that could be a pick mark. Some of these could be pick, but some of these could be withdraw marks. Let's look for our inbound. Could that be the inbound channel? Could that? No, that looks like the withdraw stroke. That looks like the inbound swipe. So some of these marks could be pick marks. Interesting. This is that front pin. Let's check the second pin. So we're not seeing the distinctive scraping motion that a lot of pickers use. It looks almost like we're getting single dents, really pronounced single dents, because the Lishi tool makes it less likely that you're wobbling around as you're picking. So we could have this. Where's our inbound? That could be a key in, and this could be the key out, or vice versa. Fascinating. Third pin. Not a lot of carnage here. Maybe a picking mark there, but again, interesting. You can actually see the Lishi tip is wider. It's wider than a regular pick. Look at that chat. And this could have been the inbound, or this could have, fascinating. Fourth pin. Let's see the fourth pin. I'm loving this. Wow, this fourth pin really isn't showing a lot of attention in any way. There's one of our in or out stroke, probably inbound stroke there. One of these could be a withdraw. Not a lot of chatter on the withdraw. And we're not seeing a lot of Lishi pad. I mean, just maybe what's this scratching here? It's hard to tell. Look at the last pin here. Boy, I gotta say, so there's this weird clack. These might be reused pins or something, but during testing, during factory pinning, why are there this many bumps on the deepest pin? There's our inbound stroke. Now, yes, you maybe could make the case that there is something else happening in here, but you know what? As far as forensics and anti-forensics, maybe there's something to this. Well, got them back together, and hopefully all those parts are going to keep working. That was kind of an adventure with the microscope there. Well, Brian, I don't know how much we learned about the forensics on that one. There were some marks, I think, but it was definitely more of a train wreck than I was expecting. I don't know if these are GMS cylinders or what cheapo brand, but pour one out for those poor pins before anybody got to touch them. No, don't actually pour one out. I'm not messing with the House Lannister Lagavulin. All right, but now we come to a real critical point for a number of people, and it's the coolest thing, I think, in this video. You might think it's the dumbest thing. Tell me which one you think it is down in the comments below. That drives engagement. We've been working with a bunch of locks that are either 6-pin or deep enough that this full length of shaft will fit into the lock body. What happens, though, if you have a 5-pin lock and you can't get the Lishi pick all the way in, right? It can't go all the way back to the tip. How do you deal with that, right? Well, one thing you can do is get an SC4 Lishi for the 6-pin locks and get an SC1 Lishi, the 5-pin version, for your occasional 5-pin lock. But as we've talked about, not even with just original Lishi, with all the family of these tools, that gets expensive. Wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of solution, kind of like the Richard Stapleford tubular pick convertible design, where, you know, he made a 7- and 8-pin tubular pick, so for the one time in a million you come across an 8-pin lock, you didn't need to buy a whole new $80 pick. Now, I'm not the first one to come up with this thought, right? So like Justin A., he reached out to me, JimyLongs, like, I mean, he was talking about it in the tool Slack when I was like, hey, would this work? And Jimmy's like, I've thought of that too, I think.
There's got to be a way to make an adapter or some small part that can adapt a 6-pin Lishi pick for use in a 5-pin lock, right?
So here's the deal. You want something to work with your Lishi picks to save you a ton of money and give you more flexibility. I got you. I got the hookup right here. Okay, so what is this little insubstantial piece of nothing, like a tiny piece of red plastic? Well, some of you are already seeing where this is going. This is a collar that can slip over the shaft of your Lishi pick tool and give it standoff distance from the face of the plug. Remember, all these brands of lock have standard spacing in between each pin position. So on Schlage, you can look this up on a lock chart. The BCC, the between cut center, that's 0.156, 156 thousandths of an inch. Quickset is very similar. Quickset's about 0.150. That's why we actually made this tool here, this little design, in 0.153. A hair, like 3 thousandths of an inch. No, that's not going to matter at all in terms of how this works. What we have here is now the ability to insert our tool into a 5-pin lock, and then it won't drive all the way in. This extra standoff distance means that now these are still going to work. Each position is going to work in the chart, right? The first position, right, this first chamber is nothing because we're now outside of the pin stack. But the second chamber will hit number 2. The next chamber will hit number 3, and on and on and on. So if you don't mind your position looking like it's off by one position, you can use an SC4 pick in a 5-pin lock. You can use a KW5 pick in only a 5-pin KW1 quickset lock. Instead of spending buku dollars on having every Lishi imaginable, just get the long one. Get a couple of these little rubber rings here. They're not rubber, they're hard plastic, right? They're 3D printed. And there you go. So what are we going to do with this idea? Well, 2 things we're going to do with this idea. You know me, right? I don't like to charge a lot for something that's this simple. So on Red Team Tools, anybody buying a Lishi pick, I was going to say a compatible Lishi pick, but like, screw it, who cares? I don't want to make my warehouse staff figure out which is which Lishi. Anybody buying a Lishi, you get one of these thrown in for free. It's my gift to you. If you already own your Lishi picks, you bought them from us, or you bought them from Covert Instruments or lockpicks.com or who the hell knows, but you like this idea, 5 for 5. I got the hookup, baby. $5 for a bag of 5 of these. Again, on Red Team Tools, you pick them up, you put them on your things when you need them. Many a times you don't need them. Even in a 5-pin lock, a 6-pin tool will often work. And for those of you who really think that $5 is too much to spend, I feel you. I understand. You think I got all this by just buying $5 lock tools everywhere? Of course, I bought every lock tool. But this design is going to wind up on my GitHub. If you want to try to print one, knock yourself out. Now, there's a lot of fiddly bitting going on with that. There's a lot of, like, it would drive anybody to drink, trying to get those thousandths of an inch kind of just working right and avoiding the elephant footing and everything else. But if you want to try it, freaking try it. I'm going to have the files up. If they're not there now, link down below. They'll be there, you know, at the end of the week or something like that. But yeah, I wanted something nice. I wanted to give something back to all of you. And I wanted to make a way for people to get into this market and start trying these tools with as little investment as possible. So from now on, I think on Red Team Tools, we're just going to stop carrying the SC1 and the KW1. We're going to just carry the 6-pin versions since everybody gets a little something something in there. If you think you got a good name for this little collar, let us know. Tell me down in the comments, or email me, or tweet at me, or, you know, place an order on Red Team Tools and put it in the comment field. I'll read that shit. I hope you enjoy this kind of stuff. I certainly do. I really appreciate the community who comes up with cool ideas, and I'm not taking sole credit for this. Again, there's a conversation around this. It's an idea that was waiting to happen. A lot of the credit goes to Byte. We appreciate, dude, Byte Stealer. You're my freaking sir. You're doing so much for Tool, you're doing so much for the lock sport world, and you're doing so much for me in printing and producing these. So thank you to everyone for watching. I hope this was educational and helping with the disambiguation and helping clarify things. If you like the Lishi picks, pick them up. If you haven't gotten them yet, maybe this gives you the push. But whatever gets you out there trying them, please try them, because there's such a big wide world of locks to be picked and so little time. Stay safe out there. All right, so that was kind of a fun learning experience and experimental time, wasn't it? And you know what else is fun? Giveaways! I haven't done one in a couple of videos. I recognize that, and I feel bad. I've been giving a lot of stuff away. I'm going to throw a little video giveaway update kind of summary out. I'll name some winners and let you know who you were, because most of you got stuff in the mail and wrote back to me, but in case you missed something, let me know. You know what the giveaway is this day? Are you ready for this? Are we all strapped in? You remember, you can click to register for free shit right down below. I'm going to give away Lishis with the little red collars on them. Absolutely. So, if you would like a Schlage 6-pin SC4 style Lishi, go ahead and sign up for my mailing list, which is never used. It's only an emergency list if I get booted off of YouTube because they hate me for some reason. And I'm going to give away at least 2 of these. This one, the original OG round collar historical artifact. I kind of feel like Ian on Forgotten Weapons, right? This is a forgotten lock weapon. That might be mine forever. But these 2 right here, save yourself, what are they, $80? No, they're not 80, they're $70 now. They're $70 on Red Team Tools. So try to win one. If you don't win one, you can always buy one. Again, you know, link below and all that. I hate this. That's not a freaking sales channel. Who gives a shit about that? But thank you to everyone who watches, who subscribes, who comments, who participates in the community, like the fine folk you see in our end credit. We have end credits, right? We had actors in this video. But yeah, if you would like to give something to yourself, because I like giving back, please go ahead and try to win one of these. I want to get them into your hands. I want to see what you come up with next and what coolness you can make happen and put online for me to watch. Because I don't have TV and I hate the movies these days, but I watch a lot of YouTube. I'd love to watch what you're doing. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Stay safe out there.